What are the most significant challenges you face in transforming workplace culture and leadership?
I think it's about, do I jump right into the answer or?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's about breaking down those barriers and destigmatizing the concept of stress. I think in today's day and age, a lot of people talk about stress. A lot of people talk about burnout, but they don't know where to go from there. It's a conversation starter for sure, but a lot of people don't know what to do about it. And I think this has been pretty common across a lot of places because I remember when I used to experience a lot of stress related health issues, and my doctor used to be like, "Oh, you're just stressed out. Don't take stress." And I used to be like, "That's it. That's cured my entire stress. Thank you so much for that." And I would receive this answer multiple times from a lot of people. You know, when I'm going through difficult situations, people would come up to me and go, "Why are you stressed out? Don't take stress." I'm like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works because my brain is already in the stress response. What can I do about it? There are no answers. And I think one of the biggest issues is to raise awareness around stress, to make sure that people understand that stress is a normal part of how our body responds to any perceived or real threat. But that doesn't mean that we need to stay in the stressed out space. Another thing is, employees don't need to prove their worth by showing out how stressed they are or how burnt out they are. There's a huge myth that, oh, burnout is a badge of honor. I mean, if this person is burnt out, that means they have struggled hard enough. Chances are they're potentially just sitting in front of their computer all day long in that stressed out space where they're blanked out, but they're still sitting there and they're still working. They're trying to push out stuff when their brain is not functioning at the highest potentiality and at its highest productivity and efficiency, because we are so attuned to, oh, 9 to 5. You got to sit here, you got to sit at your desk and you got to push out productivity. Sometimes productivity occurs in 2 hours and you get most of your stuff done. But there are those concepts of understanding what traditions we need to keep and understanding what we need to transform. I think with the traditional aspect, a lot of people either get hooked onto it or they forget all about it. There needs to be a good balance of the transformation happening in a way where people are able to be a part of that process and learn how to manage the stress efficiently. So I think that would be one of the biggest things as well. Like people are so used to being like, oh, but this is how it always works. This is how it's always worked in our company. Yes, but is it serving you? Yes, but is it helping your employees today? Yes, but if it is working, then why are your employees experiencing stress? Why are your leaders experiencing stress? A lot of times, I think we also forget that. We forget about the fact that good leaders who are managing amazing employees in ensuring that they are working in a wonderful culture often experience a lot of stress to maintain that culture as well. But that's forgone. That's like, oh, but you're just delegating your work. You're just managing people. Why are you experiencing stress? Exactly. Ask those questions. Why are you experiencing stress? What can we do to ensure that these stressors get reduced? What can we do to support you? I think those conversations are amiss. And ensuring that you're able to hold those conversations in a way where you don't get defensive when your employee or when your leader responds to a question that, why are you experiencing stress? Or is because this work culture is damaging my mental and emotional state. This way of working doesn't work for me. If your employee responds with that and you respond by getting into defensive, is defeating the purpose. And so there are, I think, a lot of these areas that need to kind of be focused on when you're working on stress management. And I think those are some of the biggest obstacles is, destigmatizing stress, having conversations around it, having conversations in a way where you don't get defensive. And if you do get defensive, because let's be real, everyone is, especially people who are really passionate about what they do, they can get defensive when someone's like, oh, but, it's like, oh, your baby can't really run that well. Did you notice that? Your baby can't talk that well. Did you notice that? It's normal to get defensive. And so if you can get, or if you have noticed that you get defensive in scenarios like these, when you want to hold a safe and non-judgmental space, but you can't control how you respond when conversations are happening, that's all right too. But in a scenario like that, bring in someone else. Bring
That's
in
a good
someone
point.
else who can look at it from an outside's perspective. Oftentimes people also get stuck in that tunnel vision. Oh, stress. We're gonna find out what causes people stress and we're gonna get to the end of it. Yes, but they forget about all the other things that's happening in the background. We forget about how people sometimes tense up because they're afraid of, if I say this, will I get fired? If I
Mhm.
say this, will I have repercussions? If I say this, does this mean that I might not potentially get promoted? Right? You have all of these things, but people sometimes can get too focused on finding the answer that they forget about all the surrounding things that's happening in the place and during the conversation. So I think having someone else come in, not necessarily me. If you want me, hey, I'm here. But also bring in someone else who can look at it from an outsider's perspective and give you an eagle-eyed perspective of what's happening so that you can move towards the answer quicker. I think that would be my response. No, I was just saying, I see a lot of Korean shows because that's my guilty pleasure and a way for me to relieve stress. And I have noticed a lot of people going into emergency rooms and being hooked onto salines because they've been overworking and not drinking enough water, eating enough food, and they're literally fainting because of exhaustion.
Mhm.
I don't understand why we as a culture create the necessity for something like this to happen. And I'm just saying from a viewer's perspective, I don't know how much of it is real and actually happens in Korea.
Mhm.
But just being in that spot where you are overworking yourself till you're fainting, till you're dying, like you said, it doesn't make sense. Like, what then? What happens next? And one of the things that my mom always tells me, and this is a Bengali phrase which goes, Ami bachle bapir naam, which basically translates to, if you live today, only then can you know, ensure that your father's name is spread around the world.
Mhm.
Basically, meaning like, family is honor. You want to bring honor to your family, great. But that can only happen if you survive. And that can only happen if you live to another day. If we are overworking ourselves on a really huge project that's going to make our legacy shine brighter, but if we die today just before the implementation of that project, what's the point of it all? Why
Right.
live like that? I don't
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was the one who's like, live today. Then we'll figure out everything else that needs to happen. But you gotta live today. So yeah.
Yeah. That's a good and wise point. Okay, so the next question is,